Hi everyone, I'm going to be carrying on reading Esio Trot by Roald Dahl for you today. Now we come to a certain bright morning in May when something happened that changed and indeed electrified Mr. Hoppy's life. He was leaning over his balcony rail, watching Mrs. Silver serving Alfie his breakfast. "Here's the heart of the lettuce for you, my lovely," she was saying, "and here's a slice of fresh tomato and a piece of crispy celery." "Good morning, Mrs. Silver," Mr. Hoppy said. "Alfie's looking well this morning." "Isn't he gorgeous?" Mrs. Silver said, looking up and beaming at him. "Absolutely gorgeous," Mr. Hoppy said, not meaning it. And now, as he looked down at Mrs. Silver's smiling face gazing up into his own, he thought for the 1,000th time how pretty she was, how sweet and gentle and full of kindness, and his heart ached with love. "I do so wish he would grow a little faster," Mrs. Silver was saying. "Every spring when he wakes up from his winter sleep, I weigh him on the kitchen scales. And do you know that in 11 years I've had him, he's not gained more than 3 ounces. That's almost nothing." "What does he weigh now?" Mr. Hoppy asked her. "Just 13 ounces, Mrs. Silver answered. "About as much as a grapefruit." "Yes, well, tortoises are very slow growers," Mr. Hoppy said solemnly, "but they can live for 100 years. "I know that," Mrs. Silver said, "but I do so wish he would grow just a little bit bigger. He's such a tiny wee fellow." "He seems just fine as he is," Mr. Hoppy said. "No, he's not just fine," Mrs. Silver cried. "Try to think how miserable it must make him feel to be so titchy. Everyone wants to grow up." "You really would love him to grow bigger, wouldn't you?" Mr. Hoppy said, and even as he said it, his mind suddenly went click, and an amazing idea came rushing to his head. "Of course I would," Mrs. Silver cried. "I'd give anything to make it happen. Why, I've seen pictures of giant tortoises that are so huge people can ride on their backs. If Alfie were to see those, he'd turn green with envy." Mr. Hoppy's mind was spinning like a flywheel. Here surely was his big chance. "Grab it," he told himself. "Grab it quick." "Mrs. Silver," he said, "I do actually happen to know how to make tortoises grow faster, if that's what you really want." "You do?" she cried. "Oh, please tell me. Am I feeding him the wrong things?" "I worked in North Africa once," Mr. Hoppy said. "That's where all these tortoises in England come from. And I bedouined tribes and told me the secret." "Tell me," cried Mrs. Silver. "I beg you to tell me, Mr. Hoppy. I'll be your slave for life." When he heard the words, "your slave for life," a little shiver of excitement swept through Mr. Hoppy. "Wait here," he said. "I'll have to go in and write something down for you." In a couple of minutes, Mr. Hoppy was back on the balcony with a sheet of paper in his hand. "I'm going to lower it to you on a bit of string," he said, "or it might blow away. Here it comes." Mrs. Silver caught the paper and held it up in front of her. This is what she read. Okay, so I think we'll stop there. So I wonder what she's going to read.